Green Diamond Resource Company is a sixth-generation family-owned company. We own 635,000 acres here in south central Oregon, in the east side of the Cascades. So when we purchased the properties here in southern Oregon in 2014, what we purchased was a relatively young forest. Many of those acres were overstocked plantations, and so we've been spending time thinning those plantations out. This is a plantation that was 600 trees per acre. It's now been thinned down to about 130 trees per acre. So from 6 by 12, you could stand between trees and touch them, to an 18-foot spacing.
With all company crews, company cutting, in the woods chipping. We run 2 chippers full time to do that.
This operation that we do here doesn't pay for that equipment. It generates enough revenue to cover the wages, the maintenance, the fuel in the equipment. Doesn't generate enough revenue to buy that equipment to put it out here.
This promotes forest health, prevents insects and diseases coming in, makes the stand more resistant to fire resiliency, overall just a healthier stand in general.
So this particular thinning operation was done in about 2017, 2018. We cut the trees and we lay them down and let them dry for 12 to 18 months before we actually chip them. And this particular stand was about 250 acres. To date, we've treated about 70,000 acres of these plantations in this fashion. And we still have another 30 or 40,000 acres of backlog to work through. We have chippers, we have the skidders, we have the feller bunchers, and we operate company crews that do this. And we feel that gives us an advantage in terms of a little sense of ownership. We have people that have been working on this landscape for 40 years or more, and all the way down to younger kids just getting involved in the timber business. And our crews, this is where they live, this is where they recreate, this is where their parents live, this is where their parents recreated. So they have a very close tie to this landscape, and what happens out here they take very personally. In areas with sensitive soils, we'll target times of the year to operate in those areas when the soils are less susceptible to damage, so either in the middle of the summer or in the middle of winter when we have frozen conditions. The Bootleg fire was in 2021. Overall, that was a pretty devastating fire. It was 415,000 acres in total. 110,000 of that was on Green Diamond property. When the Bootleg fire hit, we were heavily engaged throughout the summer. And then after the Bootleg fire, we still had more big fires to deal with, and we stayed engaged. Overall, our company operators, our equipment operators, logged over 11,000 hours on fire in 2021. Not just on our property, on our neighbor's property. In general, we saw a clear change in fire behavior when the fire reached these plantations. It would move from the crowns to the forest floor and burn with lower intensity.
As a firefighter, it's a safer place to go. The brush is down. We're able to work in that area safer, use it for control lines, and help stop the spread of the fire sooner.
While the fire was still burning, we were busy securing growing space at nurseries for what we felt we would need to grow to replant after the fire. So our forestry manager, I had challenged him during the fire with putting a plan together to successfully reforest what we plan to reforest, what we need to reforest in the next 5 years. And while he was out on the fire line, he was also on the phone securing growing space and people to come and collect cones. We've been able to share some of that seed and some of those seedlings and make them available to our partners in the basin, both ODF on the state side and some of our local nonprofits, to help our neighbors reforest their property as well. So to help our neighbors in the community, we transported seedlings for them, and we stored seedlings and allowed them to load out of our facilities each morning to get those seedlings out to them.
Post Bootleg fire, a lot of these streams on our ownership in Lake County were pretty devastated by the fire. With that, it really affected the population of bull trout. Pretty much eliminated them from these streams. The water got really hot. There's no shade anymore. So after the fire, we partnered up with some of our local nonprofit organizations. We fully agreed to, we want to restore the streams back to what they were before. There was areas that we could not harvest within these streams. Either it was too steep or just financially didn't make sense for us. So those were some of the areas we targeted. Some of those leftover trees were then cut down and put in the stream to create structure for the fish.
It's great to see a company take that initiative with the stream restoration. We've also worked with them with aspen restoration, dry and wet meadows and wetlands that they don't have to be involved in. But as they're working around that area, they strive to improve that for the wildlife.
After the thinnings, you're reducing competition in these stands. You're providing areas for greener grass to grow for wildlife. Definitely a wildlife benefit for these stands. Potentially more runoff with water into our streams, providing more water for the fish.
Post fire, what we're seeing in these thinned areas is still a green, vibrant forest. They're growing, they're healthy. We all know that these fires are not going to go away. We're going to face other large fires, and to pretend like you're not, I think is planning for failure. So this is really planning to be successful in the face of the large fires we're seeing.
They're trying to be proactive with all these other agencies and do large land scale restorations across their property lines with others. And I can see the forest here in the Klamath Lake District being able to withstand the climate change, the fires we're having, and still have a forest in the next 100 years.